Thank you. A very good morning to all of you here. As I was walking up the stage, I realized, gentlemen, there's a collective 150 plus years of experience sitting on this table here. Unfortunately, I'm revealing the age of all of us, but I think the best part is we have seen that before, and probably who else than all of you to understand what Samir and Lalit laid out. The what part of what's coming next in terms of AI-powered GCCs or AI-native GCCs is well defined by both of them, but I think the most important part of the whole session is going to be on how are we going to do it. I know here, some of you come from a tenured, sustained, traditional GCCs. Some of us are new. Amit, you and I are just taken on new roles, new GCCs, and there is a lot ahead of us as well. But I think what level sets all of us here today is the fact that it's new for all of us. We are all learning, and I'm really looking forward to each one of you sharing your experience about the same. Traditional GCCs or strategic GCCs that we used to call before have moved away a lot from doing delivery to creating value. So Amit, I'll start with you as we start moving from strategic GCCs to capability centers. What do you think is the key imperative that differentiates us?
Sure. Thanks, Prashanti. So from my perspective, the starting point for any leader has to be the business context, right? So to understand the industry dynamics, what are the client expectations, what is the competitive landscape, what's the geopolitics, and what is the organizational strategy. So especially when, any leader is coming up with a vision for the center, it has to be fully aligned with the business strategy of the enterprise. What are the outcomes expected, rather than, how much of footprint should be based out of the GCC. So basically the questions the leader is trying to ask is, what's the strategy 3 to 5 years down the line? What capabilities that we would like to build to ensure the enterprise strategy is successful, and what are the existing capabilities that need to be reinvented, transformed, or scaled up efficiently and effectively. Then I think Lalit highlighted multiple tenets, and I'll just pick trust. I think that is like a super critical topic. So one of the topic is execution rigor. So a lot of time, we forget that the trust and the credibility needs to be established if you have to aim higher. So if you have to look at, this will be a AI native GCC, this is how we're gonna transform the organization, we're gonna deliver on the outcome, whether it's a higher revenue, higher profit margins, risk reduction, how we orchestrate the relationships, alignment, build the right governance forums so that the focus on the outcome is not missed, right? And that trust goes a long way in ensuring the GCC is becoming a true enterprise in itself. So in a nutshell, if I have to say, the role of the leader is becoming much more broader. It's an orchestrator, it's an entrepreneur, challenge the way of working, challenge the way of thinking, and help transform the organization.
So, what really caught my attention was the 10 tenets that Lalit had put out there. Having seen that over the last 3 decades for myself, and Isaac, I'm sure you've seen a lot within your traditional journey as well with RealPage. Can you talk a little bit in terms of, what really differentiates and how do you really build that muscle? Can you make it a little bit more real for us, please?
I think the first part is when we think about the mandate of the GCC, I think it is no different than the mandate of the company. I think it is very important to get that alignment, meaning when you think about a mandate of the company or the organization at the time, if it is about say, improving the customer satisfaction by a certain percentage. That should exactly be the mandate of the GCC as well, if the center is responsible for certain functions related to it. And in a similar way, when we look at it, let's say there are centers in the US, I'd say Boston and say Austin and maybe in San Francisco. We don't usually think in terms of the mandate of the centers, right? We think in the context of mandate of the eventual business outcomes. I think it is very important to have that DNA at the internal part of the GCC, though from a contextual, from a region and the location perspective, there is an external manifestation, talent attraction and all of that that is important, right? I think that is the core in my view in terms of getting that alignment and being a part of the global success. Thanks.
Thank you. Trust, continuously building on it with, what the enterprise starts looking at you becomes very important. George, maybe the question is more to you on how can you really win that seat at the table? I know it's a continuous delivery that you need to do to kind of deliver and to get to that stage, but what would you as a leader need to do to earn that seat at the table?
So I'll start with a real scenario that we encountered, and this was probably about 10, 12 years ago. We had an entire legal team that was doing recoupment complaints in the US, and we built this team with one of our general counsels from the US coming down to India, spent 3 years, developed this team. And so we were very proud of this team. They were doing some really heavy lifting kind of stuff for the organization. And we had this scenario where leadership in the legal group changed. And overnight, they decided that this team is no longer needed. And so literally, that was the first time we encountered something where we felt we had done everything right from an execution standpoint, but the fact that we didn't have a seat at the table cost us to lose that business. We were thinking of the employees who would spend their time learning and all that. So it was a hard burn for us. But here's an interesting thing. As an industry, the fact that we are having these conversations itself shows maturity. Because now we've gone away from just trying to get the business somehow, hook or by crook, to saying, here's how we need to get the business, but at the same time, we also need a seat at the table. And again, the way that I look at it is, the seat at the table is not handed to you. It doesn't come easy. You have to earn your stripes. So out of the gate, you have to execute. You have to perform. You have to show excellence at what is handed over to you. There's a phase 2 where you co-partner with somebody to transform that same business, take it to the next level. And then you get to the phase 3, which in my opinion is where you get the seat at the table, because now not only have you executed, not only have you transformed, now you're leading. Now you're trying to identify from a strategy standpoint, what do we need to do as a business? You're no longer looking at it from a GCC. You're not only looking at it from a cost and a productivity standpoint. You're saying, what do we need to do as a company for us to win in the marketplace? And this is the journey that most GCCs will go through, especially smaller ones. But as an industry, one of the advantages that I truly believe that we have is that many of us have gone through this journey. And today, we have the ability to walk into the room and say, we have done this. Here's why we need a seat at the table day one.
That's a great input. Every single one of them that we talked about, actually, if you see, blurs the lines in between calling it a highly efficient delivery organization or a strategic enterprise asset. Rajesh, can you throw some light on, again, how do we make this real, right? And how do we ensure those blurred lines really differentiate you to move towards an enterprise asset?
No, absolutely. Good morning. Thanks, Samir, for having us here. Fantastic. I think having a panel discussion right after when Samir and Lalit have spoken is like showing torch to the sun, of course, because they have practically spoken about almost everything, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if I have to just talk about it if I start with a small little analogy here, Prashanti, the delivery focused organization is all about you hire an Uber. Uber will take you to where you need to go from point A to point B. But if you're really looking at a strategic center here, you're talking like a Google Maps. It actually will continue to show you what are the risks, what are the traffic jams, what exactly could be the alternate paths for you to go from point A to point B. And in some ways, if you integrate Gemini with Google Maps, of course, that artificial intelligence also, you say, I need to go to an Indian restaurant, and it potentially might actually tell you what is a better Indian restaurant, what you intending to go there as well. That is, in my mind, becomes a strategic center, which is like getting to the outcomes and sometimes influencing the outcomes also to say what the organization is not looking at, which, from an outcome point of view, delivery center or GCC in that way can do that as well. Efficiency is important. Delivery is important. All those things are table stakes, of course. So that is what, from an overall talent point of view, is important. But the business intimacy is what takes you across the line to make sure that you are, working for the business rather than you're just working for the headcount. You're just working for, the initial mandate has been given to you. So that fine line, like I said, Lalit has already spoken a lot of things about what needs to happen on that value architecture point of view. So delivery excellence is a table stake, but to get to the other side, we need to now continue to start influencing the outcomes and in some way see how you can impact those rather than just say this delivery is done. And that is what the whole differentiation from a strategic value architecture point of view has to happen. And then AI is a table stake now anymore. Starts with leadership team, but it goes all the way from top to bottom. And that is what again continues to move the needle forward from a delivery center to a strategic center, of course.
I think we are just about time internalizing actually some of this, right? I mean, a highly efficient delivery organization to an enterprise strategy asset. And some of the key things that we have learned in this journey has been more around resilience, innovation, and also in terms of the enterprise growth that you can contribute, which comes through business intimacy. But I think the most important question that's pondering on all of our minds right now is, with AI, how is it really going to target our operating model? And how do we continue to have this sustained value? Because one of the key things is that can really make or break us right now is, can we sustain with the AI or, and what does it take for us to kind of create that? With that, Rajesh, my question to you is continuation to it is, how do we build an architecture that continuously creates business value?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to the simple two principles, what that center actually exists for. It's all about the outcomes. It is not just about delivering what is expected to be delivered here from value architecture point of view. So that way, it is not just about function coming to India and delivering it in isolation. And I equate it again in my simple words. It's about relay race, in which one function delivers something, hands it over to another function parallelly or, in sequential manner, and work gets done as well. Compared to how so many people come together, tackle like a football field, everything is done towards an outcome. It's about a goal is the outcome, of course, from that point of view. So the value architecture is all about what the outcome has to be and translate that into smaller little chunks, and then each and every team coming together. And while one is doing a little bit of a heavy lifting, second team is parallelly working that team in terms of making sure that the work gets done faster, work gets done in parallel as well. So that is a value stream mapping. In some ways we talk about that as well. So for example, I'll take an example of a simple finance work stream of R2P or I2C or something. A lot of people associate that with, this is a finance vertical or a finance function. But while it is not, it starts with the front ending. There's a lot of technology back and behind. There's a lot of automation and there's a lot of technology intervention that needs to happen as well. So how all of them come together while the run part is happening, the whole capability is seen through the lens of technology, process, and mini ecosystem, as we call it, is existing there for people to work together and create that value which is required. Otherwise, just delivering an I2C while in parallelly technology is working separately is not the value outcome, is not the value architecture we look at. See things through the lens of a process, technology, business, and delivering the outcome, not just deliver the deliverable which is expected from them. So that is a needle, and that is where AI comes into picture. And I just wanted to sort of make another analogy here. See, when you include AI, AI is an enabler, or AI is more or less not an organization, not a tool itself. It's all about the overall ecosystem that has to enable the the business outcome. It's like you have a lot of AI tools. You can have a lot of cricket bats. We recently completed our UCPL, of course, cricket point of view, right? So you can have the best of the bat. You can have the best of the AI tool. But if the right talent and the right understanding of the situation, you don't know how to play, and even the best of the bats may not be able to give you the best, the delivery results. So that is the reason this whole AI and the value articulation, the whole, imperative needs to come out and deliver what the center is supposed to do from a business outcome point of view. So that is what moves the needle forward, Prashanti.
Thank you. value stream mapping, you said it so right. It takes a whole village to kind of, deliver the outcome. But one thing that plays into it, Amit, is the culture. We are so married to the titles and the hierarchies. What do you think as we start, getting to the next horizon? How is the culture? And, what role is the culture going to play in the GCCs?
So culture is the DNA of the organization. I think at the start of the event, there were a lot of conversations on this entire history of captive to GIC to GCC and so on. While of course for the industry terminology we use the word GCC, but to me it's enterprise. Yeah, so there should be no differentiation internally. So it's Zurich, Singapore or Zurich, India, right? That's it. It's not like we are trying to give any separate identity. So the culture has to be very much ownership driven. It has to be business focused. And how do you continue to drive, so basically you have a clear strategy as I was sharing. Are you able to create a better customer experience? Are you able to deliver products at a faster pace? Are you able to embed AI through the journey? So for an underwriting process which used to take 3 weeks, are you able to reimagine the entire workflow and can it be delivered within 3 hours? I think that's the ownership culture, reimagination that needs to be embedded into the enterprise architecture. So that's like a simple way to describe it.
It's like going beyond the location, going into putting the teams together for the business outcome that really kind of drives the value for the organization.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on, I think an additional value which can actually come from GCCs is, so generally if you'll see a lot of organizations with a lot of legacy, 100, 150 years and so on, many of these organizations, they operate in silos. And I think the biggest value proposition that we have, because we have full visibility of enterprise across multiple business units, technology areas, operations area, and also a lot of ownership roles. So how do you actually leverage the cross-functional synergies to drive that enhanced outcome? That's the secret sauce.
Great. George, I just will build on top of it. So in the next 2 to 3 years, I'll say next 2 to 3 years because we don't know what the next 5 years is going to be. What do you think the target operating model with AI in the mix for each GCC should be?
So I think AI is one of those paradigm shifts that you're going to see. So in our world, we've had this experience where, because we run, unlike many GCCs, we don't necessarily run a cost center. We run a profit center. So we had the ability to basically go test out new technologies as it comes through the door. So a few years ago, there was RPA. A few years prior to that, there was blockchain. Cloud was there in the mix. And so when AI showed up, we were thinking, as with all things, we were going to jump into the bandwagon. We're going to test the waters out. And depending on what the value is, we were going to get deeper. And simple example, and I'll keep it brief in this, that we'd worked on machine learning models that had worked over 5 years, had gone from a 30% quality to about 70 or 80% quality. And our first pass results with some of the AI models was, I would have been happy if it got to 50% first pass. The first pass was 90%. 10 percentage points better than what ML had done with pre and post processing. What it does for us is that it opened up our eyes to the potential. So, and again, this is at its infancy. I look at it very simply and say, I saw internet in 1995 for the first time with a dial-up connection. By 2000, the game had changed. You went to cyber cafes and things like that. AI is in the 95 to 2000 phase at this point of time. You've not seen the potential of what it can do. So as GCCs, I think if we don't embrace it, and I mentioned this maybe a year and a half ago when we first encountered this, if we don't embrace this and this doesn't become part of your DNA, you're going to not be successful with it. So, and as part of that, what are you trying to do? You're going to try and ensure that your leadership team and maybe a level below that has visibility to what this technology holds. You also want that people can test and experiment in this space, because especially with new tech, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to keep the lights on in cloud and pay a big bill once. Those things will happen with AI as well. But if you don't know and if you can't experiment with it today, you will not be successful tomorrow as it becomes more prevalent.
Most of these are, again, very soft aspects of, what you have learned through your life. Bring it, but more intentional. Thank you for saying that, right? Experiment, fail fast, but keep moving on. We've heard it many times, but we continue to not do that, so that's great. Isaac, what do you think are the other capabilities that we need to build as we move into this phase?
So I think when we think about other capabilities, really there is quite a bit of changes in how the current capabilities and the roles are functioning, right? I think it is, of course, there is an element of new capabilities, but if you look at every job function or a job description that is today in a GCC, take an example of a product management role. Yes, typically it is about, writing user stories and developing the details, persona-based and so on. Now you have enough tooling to expand on it. So how does that job description change for a product manager? Maybe into a deep POC and development using vibe coding all the way up to handing over to engineering. Looking at a developer role, yes, you had to be good at programming and that was the skill set. Now it is more and more about how do you leverage not just AI coding assistance, how do you master spec-driven development and be part of smaller pods and deliver more rapidly, be accountable for overall outcomes, right, rather than just development. So similarly, when you look at even a business services and operations team members, used to be a transactional activity. Now, how do you elevate yourself into a human in the loop sort of a role? I think what it has typically happened is pretty much every job description gets re-evaluated, and in that process requires a lot of upskilling and recalibration. And it's also a question of would everybody in the current role in a particular job eventually scale up to the newer responsibilities or not, right? That is one aspect of it. Along with that, there are newer roles that are coming up, right? I think we heard earlier about forward deployed engineers. I think traditionally what would be a consultant who would help with eventually realizing the technological outcome now really becomes more about lot more technical, lot more orchestration, and that gives, while new career paths, it's also new roles that need to be created and contribution should happen, and this is an opportunity that is available for GCCs as well. So I look at it as, complete transformation of pretty much most of the roles, and also certain new roles that are completely new in the AI era that from a GCC perspective we need to be prepared for, right?
Thank you. I think the key is going to be definitely talent transformation. And I know during the day there are many more sessions that are going to enlighten on that. Rajesh, I know I would love to continue this panel conversations, but I know we are almost nearing the time. So very quick question for you. What matters the most? We have talked about technology, we have talked about process and talent. What should be the first one in the new era?
Yeah, and I think I'll give a small little anecdote. I'm a person of anecdote and analogies, right? So autonomous vehicles, we all know that. And there is still not enough confidence among the consumers on the autonomous vehicle. Technology is there, talent is there in the form of an engine, but what is missing in those autonomous vehicle is person behind the steering wheel. So if I equate that, leadership is all about the steering wheel, engine is all about the talent which drives the vehicle forward, and enabler is the technology, which is an accelerator, of course. So what exactly is super important for those vehicles is leadership. And that is what Lalit alluded to in terms of what is required from the ownership. So if I have to choose one, it is still the leadership which continues to move the whole organization or the outcomes or the mission purpose forward from an organization point of view. If you have the talent and technology, but leadership team is not looking in the right direction from what needs to be done, that's going to be as sort of ineffective as possible. So if I have to give one, leadership has to be super important, and those 10 plus levers that Lalit mentioned going forward.
Fantastic, thank you. And one talent investment, Amit.
So talent investment, I think we need to bridge the gap between AI, tech, engineering, and the domain experts, right? So if I talk about insurance industry, so we have very specific domain roles like underwriter, claim adjuster, and all. They all need to be AI empowered, enabled, or that's how we can amplify the intelligence.
Yeah. It's funny every time we start on the business, but we end with talent. becoming so important for us. I think that's been the journey for us in the last 30 plus years for GCCs. So, George, for you, one word that defines the GCC future leadership.
Ownership.
Ownership, wow, that was fast. One mindset, Rajesh.
Sorry?
One mindset,
No, mindset is again, the co-creation.
co-creation, wow. And Isaac, for you, one operating model practice.
So I would say staff augmentation as a practice, avoid or be minimal about it. By that what I mean, when you work with a third party or a partner, typically the model is about how do you get X number of resources to augment your capacity. One of the caution is, particularly for new GCCs who might be maybe transferring people from a third party or building out with a mandate to build a large team soon, is to very quickly create a lot of people, but not necessarily with good managerial accountability and ownership. And that is the risk I would like to call out, because it's important to start off well with good ownership. Otherwise, it'll be fancy and nice to start off and there is good financial equation, but at the same time, it becomes very difficult to change the model to go upstream. Right? I think if you start off not with the right level of ownership. So I would say be cautious about building up GCC team members in a staff augmentation model. Avoid it or be minimal about it. Have a path to higher ownership. Right?
Yeah, I think the opportunity lies at the intersection of the strategic alignment, AI-powered transformation, and most importantly, the way the talent will show up in the new era. It's been very insightful. Thank you so much for your time. I wish we had more time, but looking forward to more conversations later on. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.